on the road, and once more we're visiting in Simpsonia, Kentucky at Westwood, and we have as our guest today Mary Rayburn Collier. Miss Collier, thank you very much for letting us come in, or actually for you to come next door, if you want to be absolutely literal about it. And I just got acquainted with Miss Collier. I found out that she's a Rayburn and is related to some of the dearest friends I've ever had. And that would be Claudine Ford, whose mother was a Rayburn, and whose dad, of course, was a Ford. We visited her many times while they lived in Louisville. Later, we visited them in Nashville till her mother died, and until her father died, and we've been back since, as far as that's concerned. We go every chance we can. But now, I don't want to do the talking. You're the guest. You tell us where you were born.
I was born over at Benton, born and raised there. And I was born in a little house that's right across directly from Dr. Gordon's office now.
Yes, I know that's just off Poplar, and I think maybe it's 8th Street or 9th.
Well, it was directly across, facing Dr. Gordon's office. Yeah. And my mother was Sula Parks, and my father was Ernest Clanton, and he was raised at Hazel, Kentucky. And my grandparents were Mary Frances Peterson and married James Weldon Parks. And I don't remember my
Peterson is a famous name around Benton. Why, wasn't there a Peterson store?
John Peterson's store. They were related. I don't know just to what extent. And I don't remember my father's mother and father. They were gone when I was born. And I came from a family of 4 children. I had a brother, 2 brothers and 1 sister, and we've lost both brothers. And
but your sister's still living.
My sister's still living. She lives in Belleville, Illinois. And
near St. Louis.
Yeah, just across the river. And there's not too much to say about the family. I'm a mother of 13 children.
You are the mother of 13? Why, it didn't affect your appearance at all.
And my oldest child was Charles. They called him Bugs, but I lost him a year ago. And then I lost my youngest son in a car wreck 14 years ago. I had 2 sets of twins in the bunch. And let's see. Is anything you want to know?
Well, I was going to let you talk as long as you want to talk there. I kind of want to back up a little bit and find out where you went to grade school.
I went to Benton, grade school.
You remember any of your teachers?
Oh, yes. We'll go with Matt Sparkman, Ruth Saunders.
I know Matt Sparkman. In fact, I eat lunch with him every Thursday at
Ruby Wade.
Yes.
Now, when I came to Benton to go to school, I was already in the 4th grade. I took my first schooling in Paducah. And let me see if I can think of some more of them. In high school, I had Addie Fawn. And
she was a very widely noted English teacher.
Well, you see, her sister married John Rayburn.
So that sort of put it in the family.
Okay, and then there was, let me see, there was, of course, Chambers, he was there. And
Ted Chambers was the superintendent of the school. Back then, the superintendent taught some.
My home ec teacher was Miss Ernestine Tisdale, and she came from Catawba, Kentucky. And I don't think I went to... No, I know I didn't go to Margaret Heath or Miss Georgie, either one. Naaman Duke, I went to him.
Well, wonderful. Now, I recall Mr. Duke. In fact, he taught school. I don't know what all he did, but he was a county officer sometime or other. But
Well,
maybe
he was-
tax commissioner, or I've forgotten what it was.
Something. But at that time, he was teaching the 8th grade.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about all I can remember of him. I know
Well,
there was
you've
one. There was
done-
one. There was one
you've
by the
done-
name of Herman Miller that
Mhm.
came from somewhere and taught there for a few years. But that's about all I can think of right now. That's been a long time ago.
Well, yes. Now, did you tell me that you knew Ruth Hyatt Bloomingburg?
I sure do. Long time. Her and my mother were real good friends.
Yeah.
Real good. And it's just been one of those things, you know. And I knew the whole family. I knew her brother. And I guess it was her, Miss Nettie
Oh, Miss Nettie was her mother.
was
of
her
course.
mother.
Yeah.
And I didn't know her daddy.
The Nettie Green married, well, I don't know what his name was. His last name was Height, and that is Ruth's mother. Now,
Mhm.
after he died,
She married R. Blendon.
married, Landon. Uh-huh. And she had
Edward.
Edward and
Lucille.
Lucille.
Uh-huh.
I guess she had two by each
Uh-huh.
husband, didn't she? Yeah. So you
Yeah.
had four
Now, you
children.
see, I went to school, I guess, with Lucille.
Mhm.
I think, yeah, I imagine she's about my age.
Uh-huh.
And now, I didn't, I know who Jamie is, you know what I mean, but I just never
That's
was.
Mama Mo, my wife.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Okay.
I just never was really acquainted with her, but I knew who she
Yeah.
was. But no, I've known Ruth for, years and years. I'm going to tell how old I am here directly.
Well, you're not supposed to be on this program unless you're 65, so
Well, I'm all right then.
you'll pass.
I'll
Okay.
pass.
Well, we won't say any more about that then. All right, now, you had 13 children. Where did you meet your husband?
Well, we lived across the road from each other.
You didn't have to go
We both
far.
lived in Coles Edition.
Uh-huh.
And
That's on the south side with the highway that went to Murray, wasn't it?
no, Coles
No?
Edition is out the old road that used to go to Mayfield.
Oh, it went to Mayfield.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
did they call that thing?
Coles Edition.
The south side there. Seemed like
Oh.
it had a name, some kind of an addition one time, but I don't remember
I
now
don't
what-
remember either. They turned it around so much there
When
anyway.
we moved there in '58, where we moved was on 18th, and they called it Parkview Heights.
Uh-oh.
But but it seems to me like it did have some sort of a wild name. But you know, I'm from Hardin, and I didn't know
Just don't
that
know.
area as well.
Well, we lived in the same neighborhood, and the Rayburn home is now where that Walnut Street Baptist Church sits.
Uh-huh.
And I lived across the road. Is what we called it then. My mother built a home out there, and we lived out there. Well, my grandfather and grandmother Parks lived out there. And the house that they lived in burnt, and then Mother built a new home there.
Uh-huh.
But I've known the Rayburns for years, you know,
Yes.
and it just happened.
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful. Do you see Claudine much anymore?
Not very often. The last time I saw her was when her Aunt Gamey was buried.
Uh-huh.
You saw her for a few minutes then.
All right, you married your husband, and did you begin housekeeping in Benton?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. We stayed with Mr. and Ms. Rayburn for about 2.5 years. And then we moved up where the first housekeeping we went to was where Leonard Thompson and Ida lives now. That was the old Jim Brown place, and we went to housekeeping there.
Yeah.
And then we built a little home down where the housing project is. What they call that,
Walnut Court, I think
Okay.
it is. Yeah.
Now, we built a place right under the shade trees there.
Beautiful spot.
Yeah, and we lived there then till Mr. Rayburn died, and then he had a place down on the sidewalk, we called it.
Mhm.
And we didn't want to leave Ms. Rayburn by herself, so we moved in with her. And then we moved to Paducah then. Ms. Rayburn went to California, and Charlie and I moved to Paducah then. And we stayed, well, I've lived in Paducah ever since '54. But then Charlie and I, we separated, which is not very good, but anyway. And then I remarried, and a fella from Ballard County. And then I lost him. His name was Curly, and then I lost him with a heart attack. We'd been married 7 years, and then I married the Collier, and he's from out in this vicinity too.
Out around Simpsonia. Well, I suppose there are a lot of Colliers. I remember one that was football coach at the University of Kentucky, and later became coach of the Cleveland Browns, professional. Blanton Collier, one of the great coaches of fairly recent times. Well, did you work in Paducah?
Yes, after Charlie and I separated, I went to work in the nursing homes. I worked for Miss Ruth McIntosh, and I did that for about 8 years. And then recently, after I lost my last husband, I went to work again out at Superior Care, sitting with Miss Morris McBride.
Well, Morris McBride, I knew him. Of course, you were in Paducah when I went to work there in '45, I guess.
Yeah.
And,
no, I take that back. I wasn't either.
Well, I stayed through '59.
Well, I was here part of the time.
WPAD, so, and I believe you said '54.
When I moved to Paducah.
Okay.
No, it's just been, I probably would have still been with Ms. McBride, but Mother got to where that we were afraid to leave her, so I quit my job and took her. And so Mom's been gone 3 years almost, and so I haven't worked since then.
Well, that McBride name rings a lot of bells with me because I used to write advertising for him, and he bought some of the old basketball games. You know, I did basketball games everywhere.
Yeah.
In fact, I broadcast from Simpsonia quite a number of times.
With the ball games.
Butch Heath would always buy every Simpsonia ball game you had. And Crosland Miller would, he and his partner Pip Johnson, of course they bought Marshall County games too, but their business was in Benton then, and Pip then later was in Calvert City. But Cecil Reed was principal out here, wasn't he, for a good long while?
Well,
anyway.
now you see, I'm not from here. I moved from Paducah out here just a couple of years ago. So Simpsonia's kind of new to me, only I knew where it was, you know.
Oh, yeah.
But as far as knowing too many people out here, I don't.
You'd heard of Bill Powell.
Oh, yes. I followed his column for years.
Yeah.
And enjoy him.
Well, Bill Powell's folks were from Marshall County.
Yeah.
In fact, I interviewed him not too long ago.
Yeah, I heard that. I hear him every Monday morning.
Well,
I sit right down and there's been several on that I knew, you know. I really enjoyed Irene Johnson.
Oh, wasn't
I really
she
enjoyed
good?
that. And
She was really good.
then Reba Treese, I remember her, and Ethel Hayden, and right offhand, that's all I can think of.
Well, now let's get back and let you tell us something about Benton as you remember it when you were first there. Say you started housekeeping, and I believe one lady I interviewed not too long ago, perhaps last week, said that she supposed they spent about $10 to get started housekeeping.
That's about right, back in those times. That was just about covered.
She mentioned a straw bed.
Well, now,
Did you ever have a straw bed?
I never did have one, but I've slept on them. I have slept on them. No, we had the mattress and then the feather beds is what we had.
Mm-hmm.
And Ms. Rayburn thought you was supposed to sleep on them winter and summer.
A feather bed got a little warm
Yeah,
in
it
the,
sure
in the
did.
summer, didn't it?
And I can remember, of course, when all the streets there were all gravel, and there wasn't too many cars that went out past us.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember Van Trees had his car, would come by with his brooms, and
Bob Trees Long had that car. I remember seeing it. I believe it was a 1914 Model T.
15.
15. Had a brass radiator, didn't it?
And I'll tell you who it belongs to now. It belongs to my son.
Your son has that? Well, now, where is it? In this county?
It's in
Paducah?
Paducah,
Uh-huh.
He's got it out at his house in a garage.
Well, you can showing that thing would attract half the people in this country. wouldn't
Yeah. He bought it from...
it? Is he a member of the old car club? Or?
Not really.
Yeah.
It was just something that kind of fascinated him, you know.
Mm-hmm.
He bought it from a Coursey boy that lives out between here and Benton.
Mm-hmm.
Randall Coursey's son. I don't know what his name is, but that's where Bill got it, from him.
I guess when Bob Trees Long had it, and that kind of came through the family to him,
Could have.
I suppose. That Mr. Van Treese, was that his uncle?
I wouldn't think so, because he was a real old man at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So I imagine he was in the family some way. He could have been a great uncle of Bob's.
Yeah.
He could have done that. I went to school with Bob Trees.
Anyway, his middle name was Treese,
Yeah,
so I
mhm.
assume there was.
Well, of course, his
connection
mother was a Treese.
there. Uh-huh. Now, Cliff Treese, I believe, was his uncle.
Well, his mother and Cliff were brothers and sisters.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Well, I remember seeing that car when he had it. And, of course, if I'd have had it, I suppose I'd have given $10,000 for it. It may be worth more than that
It
now.
could be.
I expect it is.
Could be. But Bill's just got it parked out in the garage.
Mm-hmm. Does he take it out for an old car show once in a while?
I don't really know. I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
I know after he got it, I think he drove it to Benton one Sunday afternoon.
Well, he ought to take it to Tater Day Parade, you know.
Well, he might do that.
They
I don't
always
know.
have
Yeah.
an old car group in the Tater Day Parade.
Yeah. And that's
And-
coming up.
Won't be long, will it?
Sure
And
won't.
then on, well, in the fall at Murray at homecoming, they generally, the
Yeah,
old car club will drive any number of cars that
Yeah.
want to get in the parade, and some people just like to get out on a beautiful October afternoon
That's right.
and parade it around. Well, I'm glad I found out what happened to that car. I may never see it again, but
Well, Bill'll be glad to show it to you.
is that the only one he has, or?
Now, he did have another one, but now I don't know. I have no idea what it was or what model or anything, but it was an old car
Mm-hmm.
that he already had before he got this one.
Now, we're talking about Tater Day, and how do you remember it as a young person?
I remember it when they'd come to town early in the morning in the wagons and the buggies, and that was just about the only way they had to come then, you know.
Yes.
And they had their trade day up there, and everybody went, and you knew everybody, and it was just a big day for everybody.
Mhm.
And if you missed Tater Day, you just missed everything.
And there were always some, I don't know if you call them salesmen or what, but they'd set up and,
Oh, yeah.
and advertise Indian medicine sometimes, cures.
Yeah.
Naturally, they had potatoes, and they'd swap knives,
Dogs,
dogs.
mules.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you missed Tater Day, why, you'd really miss something. But now you go, it's too commercial or something now when you go up there. It's just not like going to the old Tater Days anymore.
I remember one trade day that I went to, and there was a fellow, had a tent up, and he was showing a big snake,
No.
and it was a boa constrictor. And he had a little spiel. If you bought a package of chewing gum, 5 cents package of chewing gum, you got to see the big snake free. And he'd say, come one, come all. See the largest reptile you'll ever get a chance to see. 19 feet, 7 inches long. Big around as a telephone pole, he said. So I spent my only nickel on that. And the gum was so bad that you couldn't chew it. Almost didn't get it off my teeth. So I found out it wasn't Wrigley's.
Well, was the snake all that big?
Oh, the snake was big. It was a big snake. And then I remember another year it might have been a local civic club. I don't remember who it was, but they were advertising lemonade. Homemade lemonade made in the shade and stirred with a spade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was their advertising. I can remember that too.
Yeah. Oh.
No, Tater Day now and big singing too is nothing like it used to be. You know, people years ago when I was a little girl, they'd come from Michigan and everywhere to be there for big singing. Now, I mean, and everybody'd pick strawberries and all had a new outfit to wear to the big singing.
New dress, new hat.
That's right, shoes, and I've seen them go home packing their shoes.
Blistered their feet before the days were
That's
over.
right. And,
Well, a lot of those girls went barefooted to school.
yeah, I know they did.
And I did as a young boy. In fact, I used to beg my mother before she'd say, "Oh, it's too early now. You get a cold and it'll kill you.
Mm-hmm.
The ground's cold out there." "Oh," I said, "Mother, it's warm." But I had to wait till usually somewhere around the 1st of May or something like that before she'd let me go barefooted.
My mother never would let us go barefooted. She was always afraid we'd cut her feet. And she said she'd rather we used to wear little sandals, you know, little two-strap sandals. That's what we would wear.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't go barefooted till today.
Well, I can remember when the first few days that I was out, you'd have to walk rather gingerly along, and your feet hurt, and the gravel just felt terrible. But a few more days, each day it got a little better. And eventually I guess the soles of your feet are somewhat like leather. But
Well, I still can't go barefooted.
and we could run. Of course, once in a while you would hit a piece of glass or a nail or something. But those were wonderful times.
They sure were.
And of course, living on a farm out from Hardin, actually not in Hardin, but 2 or 3 miles out in the country. Going to Benton was a real occasion to me.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't do that but about twice a year.
That's right.
We did it Tater Day and Big Singing. And every other Saturday, on Saturdays, we'd go to Hardin. Had to take off a little cream.
Eggs.
Yeah, did you ever see them test cream?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
That's what I wanted to grow up to be, was a cream tester.
Really?
I thought at that time. You know, in fact, one of the cream testers there at Hardin let me turn the machine while it was a Babcock tester.
Really?
And I thought, at first the models, you turned them by hand with a crank. Later they got electric ones.
Oh, yeah.
But, and then that boy would take this long-necked bottle out, take a pair of calipers and measure the depth of the cream, and then write it down in a little book. Why, as far as I was concerned, General George Washington didn't have any greater position than
That was a real business.
And you mentioned eggs. Did you like to keep chickens?
Well, yeah, I raised chickens and milked cows and raised hogs and had a garden. I just done it all, you know.
All the women did those things
That's
back
right.
then.
Hmm.
Did you
Sure
ever quilt a quilt?
Oh, yeah. Quilted many a quilt and pieced them too.
Yeah.
And enjoyed it.
Uh-huh.
I really enjoyed that. I like to sew if I'm in the mood for it.
You know, last year, or perhaps it's been more than 1 year, they had a real fine quilt show, I thought, at the Executive
They
Inn
did.
at Paducah.
Sure did.
And
Beautiful quilts.
quilts from all over
Hmm.
this part of the world, maybe all over the United States.
Well, I know there was some people there during that time that were from Japan. And I had this friend that had an antique place just right around from the Executive. And they went over there and bought all the old quilts that she had
Mhm.
and shipped them to Japan.
We've just got another minute or so. Do you know some funny story that you'd like to close this program with? Anything that happened to you? Did a ghost ever get after you? Or
No, not that I can remember. There's been so many things like that that has happened with my children, Mr. Mofield, it'd be hard for me to think about one. You
Yeah.
know, it's just,
single out anyone?
yeah, that's right.
Would be
And
impossible.
after you leave, I probably could think of a dozen, you know. Well, I'll try to keep it in the family, but no, it's, but like I say, just to pick out one, it'd really be kind of hard to think of right now, but I know there's been some incidents that has happened that's been real funny.
Well, Mary Rayburn Collier, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts for your talking with us. And it's one of the things that I really enjoy is interviewing people who have ties in a little older era to this part of the world,
That's
especially
right.
Marshall County. And once more, thanks and God bless you. I'm Ray Mofield, and we return you now to our studio in Benton.